Look at you with your weak ass arms and weak ass neck. Come on, bro. Look at you. Look at you. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 121. It is the third day of the week, aka the Vampire Killer Workout. I am feeling pretty good, a little tired, but nothing too crazy. I am on my way right now to the gym. It is hot, but not too hot. But anyways, I am feeling alright. I wanted to get to the main subject matter of this video as quickly as possible because I have a lot to discuss here. So, the reason why this video subject matter even came up, which is why are people assholes on the internet, and or just generally what makes people think they can get away with it. That entire subject matter, because I'm going to attack this from multiple angles. So, the reason why this even comes up is because recently I've been more active on Twitter, X. I hate that I have to call it that, but shout out X. I've been more active on there and I've seen a lot of hate recently, of course, because not me personally towards me, but just generally speaking, it's just you see it a lot when people just talk shit, you know what I mean? And this isn't the only part too. I've gotten some hate comments on here, which I'll always remember the first one because it was like a rite of passage almost. It's like, oh man, I made it, you know what I mean? That's also something I'll touch upon, but probably later. But it was just some comments that I was seeing that some people were making, and that I was like, why, what? Why are you attacking this person randomly? And it was very weird. And I think it was just the same thing that kept happening over and over again when I would see it. And whenever I see comments on here, honestly, 90% of the time, there's the 10% where it's not that, but 90% of the time when it's like a random person that usually for some reason has no skin in the game, basically, and they are very quick to put somebody down. And we'll probably get into the entire idea of like the bucket of crabs mentality and all that other stuff, because there's a lot to go into this. But I just wanted to generally talk about this because I was seeing it a lot recently, and I'm like, my god, just like fucking the general gist of, one, if you have nothing nice to say, just don't say anything at all, but two, also the audacity of certain people that would have no skin in the game to criticize others is quite astonishing, to say the least. Like, I always am like, all right, if you're going to also have skin in the game too, when you put yourself out there on the internet, regardless of what you're doing, whatever your creative outlet may be, whether it be a tweet or a post on X or a Instagram post or a YouTube video or whatever, a Facebook post, whatever else I'm missing, a TikTok, whatever it is, you are publicly putting yourself out there, not necessarily to be criticized, but you're putting yourself out there, which is half the battle. If you are doing that, that means that you are taking a part of yourself and making it public, right? And maybe not for every platform, because obviously Instagram, you can have private accounts, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You're putting yourself out there. And I think that when you do that, you put yourself in the game. You have a little bit of skin in the game. That's why I always say that, and I'll probably go into why I say that a little bit more later down the line. But the thing about that entire subject matter is that most of the people that end up criticizing others most of the time on the internet particularly are those who don't have skin in the game, who aren't actually putting themselves out there. They have the audacity to comment on something, but don't actually have the fortitude, the testicular fortitude in order to create on their own, you know? It is very rare. I would say 9 out of 10 comments, it is somebody who does not create, but only takes down or just like bashes down, if that makes any sense. And I'll probably get into the psychology as to why they might do that, the ideas as to what might be happening, the differentiation between actual criticism and just saying fuck you, you know what I mean? Because there's a big difference, obviously. You know, if somebody looks at my videos and they're like, hey, you should do this. I got constructive criticism one time from this guy who was like, hey, you're doing a little too many jump cuts for me. It's kind of annoying. And I'm like, huh, I actually am. And then I realized I took it back a little bit, and I realized that I was doing too many jump cuts. So I definitely chilled them back a lot more than they once were. I used to take out every single little pause and phrase and everything like that. Not anymore, because I feel like now it's a little bit more flowy and it makes more sense when I cut out things. It's just because it's an actual like pause, like too long of a pause that makes no sense, or in like a very abrupt you know, that type of stuff. But still, it was a criticism that I took, and it was nice. Like, I actually was like, oh, thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something about that. It's like, as long as you're not a dickhead about it, and it's an actual critique that, like, you're like, hey, good video, but this was like blah, blah, blah. Yes, then yes. I feel like most content creators would actually like that most of the time. But most of the time, it is bullshit, and the bullshit is always like the same fucking thing over and over again, just dependent on what type of content you're doing. But it's just like one-word phrases, or you're doing it wrong, which always is just like, what? Or whatever else, one little phrase they can try to get under your skin for some weird reason. And I don't know, it's just weird. But we'll probably get into more details about that when we get inside. But for now, I'll say this. This is going to be a long video that covers a lot of bases. I don't even know if it's going to be only a part 1. There might be a part 2 of this, because it is that all-encompassing, to say the least. But we'll get more into detail on the inside. To start this day off with neck curls, in which I actually had an issue, but we'll get to that in a second. But actually, we'll get into it now, because I just realized it happens right now in a little bit. But while I was doing these neck curls, I noticed the harness was coming off, and I was like, wait a second, what's going on? Yeah, by my chin, I didn't strap it in right, and my beard hair has gotten in the way. So, note to self, I gotta trim my beard a little bit, because yeah, that could have ended in disaster. So that's why there was a rough jump cut there. And that's why I'm holding on to it later on. It's not like it's not on, it's just literally, I was a little scared of what was happening. And something else happens during the preacher curls, but we'll get to that. But first, let me get to the subject matter at hand, because this one, there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's start with the fact that is crazy to think that something along the lines of a hate comment is almost like a rite of passage. When I first got my very first hate comment on my channel, I forgot what it was. I remember it. I think I still could find it now if I try, but I remember it being like, wow, this is it. Like, I've made it as a YouTuber almost. It's weird. It's like I've gotten somebody to come onto my page, say a negative thing about it, and then leave. Like, it is astonishing to me that that is a rite of passage on YouTube. But it's also astonishing in that, why is this a rite of passage? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every single piece of media, if you do social media, if you get like some type of hate on it, it's like, congratulations, you've made it, you've won, people have seen your shit, basically. That's how I feel about it. Even something as small as this YouTube channel, I feel like that immediately, which is why have we gotten to that point where it's like, once you start getting hate is when you actually have made it, or have some type of notoriety or popularity, even though like I have literally absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. But even then, I'm still getting fucking people to say something about this entire channel or how I'm doing things. It's kind of crazy, and honestly, it shocks me. To get back a little bit onto the like psychology behind it, or at least just the general idea of what usually happens with these types of people, it's always the people that don't create content are usually the ones that are the ones to come and try to destroy it. They're the ones that are usually the most influential in trying to make sure that they get their influence on the person and bring it down. For some reason, a lot of people they don't like to create, they don't want to build up, they like to tear down. And it is something that is interesting. It's always the same, because you always see like those who are super hateful don't actually do anything on their own. That's the thing. Most of the time, the other people who are making stuff, those who have skin in the game, and that's why I say it, the people who are actually making things are usually generally nice to others who are also making other things. Some people, you know, have weird hate things, but I think it's like even those, it's like you get it. It's like the same grind. You get the idea of what one person might be going through, whether it be videos or whatever. Now, they might not be able to take constructive criticism. That's a whole other subject. Or give criticism well, that's a whole other subject too. But even then, still, they kind of get an idea of how they would want to hear criticism be done versus just straight hate. And they understand that the hate is just useless. There's no point in trying to go down that route, because then it's like, all right, you really want to create that hate? I wanted to get a little bit into the bucket of crabs mentality. The bucket of crabs mentality, also known as crab theory, is a way of thinking usually described by the phrase, if I can't have it, neither can you. The metaphor is derived from anecdotal claims about the behavior of crabs contained in an open bucket. If a crab starts climbing out, it will be pulled back by others, ensuing the group's collective demise. I feel like that is something that is analogous with all of the people who end up being so hateful online. You know, they don't want to see others doing better than them, so they'll just put them down. And I think that's why you never see others who have skin in the game or are actually creating things really be down on others per se, because they also understand and want to help elevate. You see, usually it's those people who are motivating others who are creating and making and things like that. And it's just so astonishing that there's still this mentality of trying to drag people down with the anonymity that is because of the internet, so you can just be whoever, make whatever account a dummy or whatever, and then just kind of get away with that type of stuff. And I don't like it. I understand why people do it, because there is some level of trolling that happens, and trolling is a whole other subject for a whole other day. But it is astonishing, and you'll notice that most of the time these are the same types of people that don't end up actually creating on their own, or if they do and they are hateful, they are coming from a place of spite. And if it's that case, if they are coming from a place of spite, then it's just a person that you can disregard in all in its entirety, because they are just weak human beings that in reality, although could be useful and helpful and all this other stuff, they're just going to be down and trodden, and they're going to try to get you to their level. And realistically, these people should be just ignored and thrown away by the wayside. It is something that is always interesting, and I always like to think of it as this style of mentality, because people end up not wanting to see others succeed. And I think that's the other thing, is that if you ever experience any of this, no matter where you're at in like levels of things, even now, I would say I haven't experienced it as much as other big YouTubers would experience it, but these are people that should be just generally ignored and removed from your community and ignored completely, because realistically, unless they are actually giving you real criticism about what's going on, they can just go watch paint dry instead, and should be ostracized from whatever community you're trying to build, because that's the main thing about it. I would like these people to tell me something, so then that way I can completely ostracize them and get rid of them and ignore them, because you know what? Fuck them. Yeah, my profile pic's an anime character. So what? I don't care. I don't have to show you myself. And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. None. Exercises skipped. We have one. I didn't do the decline chest press machine because it was being used. So, couldn't really use it. So that sucked. But got everything else in, so it is what it is. With that being said, I will probably end up doing that decline press machine tomorrow, actually. So I'll probably just do that, just because why not, you know? Might as well get it done, and it won't really damage anything or do anything extra. So I should be able to squeeze it in tomorrow, just because why the hell not? But anyways, so back to the main subject matter for today. The reason why I wanted to talk about this was, one, because I kept seeing a lot of it recently for some reason, a lot of like online hate or just comments in general, which I was like, damn dude, this is fucking insane. Even people that are like, have like a few, followers on X or whatever are still getting fucking hate randomly. And it's like, Jesus Christ, people are so fucking brutal. But at the same time, it's almost as if like, as soon as you do like the look at their profile and see that they have like no real pictures of themselves or anything like that, they have a bunch of opinions but never really show themselves, yeah, their opinion is immediately been able to be discarded. I will not look at anybody like that and take anything that they say seriously. I think this is more of an interesting thing to look at their psychology, maybe as to reasons why people feel so emboldened to say whatever the fuck they want on the internet. I understand that things are a little different now. I mean, things used to be way worse than back in the day, but I'll say this, I'd rather let everybody say whatever they'd want on the internet versus muting a lot of it, because then there are certain times when, even when you're bantering amongst people that you like and something becomes a joke, certain platforms don't like certain words. I'm not going to say which ones, YouTube, but like I even said something about it was not a euphemism, but what was it? It was a saying. I said something that YouTube instantly flagged, which was annoying because it was just a saying. It was saying it in the saying sense, not necessarily in a derogatory sense, or even, it wasn't even derogatory. It was just a word that it didn't like, so it hid my comment. So it's just kind of like, okay, that's a little too extreme. But still, I'd rather have the ability to have anybody say anything that they want at all, because then that way, you know, you just weed these people out. You know what I mean? You get them out of your hairs. You understand who's being a dickhead, and then you just ignore them or laugh at them or laugh with them, depending. You know what I mean? Depends on how you like to handle those situations, because people handle them differently. And that's the other half of the coin of it. At the end of the day, really, when it comes to internet hate, it is all about how you handle the internet hate and what you do with it. If it bothers you to no end degree, then obviously they're just going to keep going at it. If you ignore it and just move on with your life, then they'll just kind of keep trying and, you know, like try to keep going at it. Sometimes they will just stop, but sometimes they will just be like, oh, okay, whatever. If you laugh with them, you got to be careful, because then you might become the butt of the joke all the time, every time, you know. But there are times where you can be like, all right, I get it, you know, like go with it. It all just depends. But if you handle it with care and with grace and not be overreactionary to any of these things, because a lot of the people want a reaction at the end of the day, you're basically fine. Most of the people don't care. Like once you don't care, they stop caring, really. So it is what it is when it comes to that. It is all just based on how you react to it. But just keep that aware, because you can never let them win. That is the main thing. If you let them win, and it's easy for them to win. So just be aware of that. I always hear like 10 positive comments and 1 bad comment is always like the ratio. You always hear like the bad comment is the one that they always remember and sticks to them for a while. And you got to remember, that shit just runs off you. It's always going to happen. I'll never forget when I got my first like quote hate comment on this channel. I was like, oh my God, this is like a rite of passage almost, you know, which is insane that that's even a rite of passage nowadays. But it is something that just happens, and I know that it sounds crazy, but it just is what it is. And now, did I let that affect me? A little bit. I was like, I could say some shit, but then I was like, you know what? Nah, fuck it. Just leave it alone. And that's the main thing. You just gotta leave it alone, play it out, you know what I mean? Let it be its own thing. Now, and obviously, the determinant between actually being a dickhead and constructive criticism are two completely different things. But I think that's a different subject for a different day. And with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this. I really would love to know your thoughts and opinions about this, because this is a very interesting subject to me personally, especially because I'm not one to leave hate comments unless something really pisses me off, but it is what it is. Please let me know in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. Please take care. Keep it heavy. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.